I never thought a Saturday morning could feel this calm. The light spills through my kitchen window like melted gold, touching everything it once never could. The marble countertops, the baby blue high chair, even the small photo of me and Ava on the fridge. It's been 6 years since that day, the day that was supposed to be mine. I adjust the cuff of my silk blouse, the one that still smells faintly of vanilla lotion, and glance at the clock. In an hour, I'm hosting a women's entrepreneurship brunch, a small celebration of the business I built from the ground up. Every name on the guest list knows me as Madison Carter, founder of Bloom Studio. No one here knows the version of me who once sat smiling through tears at a baby shower that wasn't really hers. My phone buzzes against the counter. A group text from my family lights up the screen, a cheerful flurry of emojis, my brother's name flashing at the top. Ethan got promoted again. We're so proud. I inhale slowly. It shouldn't sting, but it does. The same familiar ache that once hollowed me out. I take a sip of coffee, letting the bitterness settle before I speak softly to myself, almost like a promise. This time, Madison, it's your day. No one's taking it. It was early spring, the kind that carries the smell of lilacs and rain. My baby shower was held in my parents' backyard, strung with pastel balloons and paper butterflies. I remember standing under a white tent, feeling as if, for once, the world was gentle with me. Everyone was there, aunts, cousins, friends from college. I wore a pale pink dress that hugged the curve of my belly just right, and my mother kept saying how I finally looked radiant again. After months of morning sickness and quiet anxiety, I actually believed her. For the first hour, it was perfect. Laughter, gifts wrapped in shiny silver paper, the rustle of tissue as I unboxed tiny socks and onesies. Even Ethan, my golden brother, had flown in from New York for the occasion. He hugged me, told me I looked great considering, and I laughed it off. I wanted peace that day. Then, somewhere between the cake cutting and the next round of photos, he stood up. He tapped his glass with a spoon, that same charming grin he's always had lighting up his face. I have some news, he said, and the crowd turned to him. I got into Princeton's grad program. It was as if the air shifted. Cheers erupted, champagne corks popped, and suddenly the baby blue tablecloths might as well have been Princeton orange. My mother was crying, hugging him, saying, "We're so proud of you, honey." My father raised a toast. And me? I just sat there, a fork suspended in midair, my slice of cake untouched. People patted my shoulder. "Isn't that amazing, Maddie?" As if I should clap too. I smiled until my cheeks ached. But inside, I could feel my baby fluttering, like she was echoing my heartbreak from the inside out. The only person who noticed was my grandmother. She shuffled to my side, her old hands soft against mine. She didn't say much, just pressed something into my palm. A small silver charm bracelet, delicate but strong. "One day, you'll make your own kind of day," she whispered. "And no one will steal it." That night, when the house was quiet and the decorations drooped, I sat in my car and looked at that bracelet glinting in the dark. I promised myself, never again would I let anyone make me invisible. The months after Ava was born were a blur, diapers, midnight feedings, and the kind of exhaustion that made my bones ache. My parents came by once or twice a week, always with the same polite smiles and stories about Ethan's classes at Princeton. They'd hold Ava for a few minutes, then check their phones. I learned to stop expecting more. My nights belonged to her, soft lullabies and the rhythmic hum of the baby monitor. But my mind refused to stay still. Somewhere between her cries and my own quiet tears, I started sketching again. Designs, colors, patterns. It was something I hadn't touched since college. Fashion was my dream once, long before I traded it for something practical. One night, while scrolling through a forum for single moms, I found a post from a local boutique owner looking for freelance designers. I sent my sketches, not expecting much. 2 days later, she called. Her name was Lydia Ross, a woman in her 50s with a raspy laugh and the kind of honesty that cuts through excuses. "You've got something," she said. "It's raw, but it's real. Can you meet tomorrow?" That meeting changed everything. Lydia became more than a boss. She became a mentor. She taught me how to pitch, how to price, how to say no. I'd bring Ava to the shop sometimes, her stroller tucked behind fabric racks while I measured, sewed, and learned. Lydia would wink and say, "That little girl's watching you, sweetheart. Make sure she sees a fighter." The first time one of my dresses sold, it felt unreal. $50, not much, but it meant someone believed in my work. Soon came more orders, then custom requests. I opened an Etsy shop called Bloom by Madison, named after the thing I never thought I'd do again, bloom. There were nights I worked until dawn, my fingers sore, my eyes red. But there was a fire in me that no longer needed anyone's approval to burn. When Ethan graduated, my parents hosted a grand dinner in his honor. I didn't go. Instead, I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by fabric swatches and baby toys, packing my first wholesale order. I didn't post about it. I didn't need to. Over the next 5 years, Bloom grew quietly, from my kitchen table to a downtown studio, from handmade dresses to a brand carried by boutiques across the country. Every milestone was private, sacred, mine. Sometimes, I'd catch myself glancing at the silver bracelet on my wrist, the one my grandmother gave me. It reminded me that even in silence, growth is happening. Even when no one's clapping, you can still win. And I did. It's strange how life circles back. 6 years after that baby shower, my parents finally asked to visit. They said they wanted to see Ava, that they'd been so busy with Ethan's wedding, his new job, the move, the endless list of things that always seemed to come before me. I told them they were welcome anytime. They chose a Sunday, the same weekend Bloom Studio was hosting its first in-person launch event. They had no idea. When they arrived, they expected a modest gathering, maybe a few racks of clothes, some homemade snacks. But when their car pulled up in front of the glass front building with Bloom Studio etched in gold across the entrance, I saw their faces change. Inside, the air buzzed with laughter and soft music. Models floated across the room in flowing silk gowns. Photographers snapped pictures beneath floral arches. Every inch of that space, the tall white walls, the framed sketches, the subtle scent of jasmine, told my story. My parents stood frozen at the doorway. My father blinked, his voice caught between confusion and pride. "Madison, this is yours?" I smiled, steady but calm. Every bit of it. Ethan and his wife, Claire, trailed in behind them, both looking a little too polished, a little too smug, until they noticed the large poster near the stage. It read, "Bloom Studio, founded by Madison Carter. Now featured in Vogue's Designers to Watch." Ethan let out a soft laugh, the kind he used to make when we were kids, and he didn't know what else to say. "Wow, Mads. I had no idea you were doing all this." "No one did," I said, adjusting a vase on the display table. It wasn't really a family topic, was it? My words weren't cruel, but they landed like glass on marble. We gathered for the presentation. When the announcer introduced me as the founder and creative director, the applause filled the room. I stepped up, thanked the crowd, spoke about women rebuilding themselves, about creating beauty from brokenness. I could feel my family watching, my mother's trembling smile, my father's eyes glistening, Ethan's arm tightening around Claire. Afterward, my parents pulled me aside. My mother's voice cracked as she whispered, "Why didn't you tell us? We would have been so proud." I looked at her gently, because I needed to know I could be proud of me first. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Ethan, the golden boy himself, finally met my eyes. "I guess we kind of made things all about me, huh?" I gave a small shrug. "You were everyone's favorite story. I just decided to write my own." He nodded, guilt flickering across his face. My mother touched the bracelet on my wrist, the one Grandma had given me. "She always said you had her fire," she murmured. "I think she lent me a little of hers," I said softly. They lingered after the event ended, wandering the studio in silence. I let them see the walls lined with framed magazine covers, the corner where Ava's drawings were pinned, the plaque with my name in gold. Every corner whispered a truth they'd never cared to hear before, that I had built something extraordinary from the pieces they'd left behind. And for the first time in my life, I didn't crave their validation. I already had mine. That evening, After the guests left and the lights dimmed, my family stayed behind. The studio was quiet now, the scent of fresh flowers and perfume still hanging in the air. Ava sat on the floor, coloring, humming to herself. My father was the first to speak. "You've done well, Madison. Really well." His voice trembled a little, pride and regret woven into each syllable. "Thank you," I said simply. He cleared his throat. "Your mother and I were thinking maybe we could all spend more time together. You know, as a family. Ava deserves that." I looked at them, both of them standing there like they were seeing me for the first time. For years, I'd imagined this moment, them admitting their mistakes, me forgiving them instantly. But standing there now, I realized forgiveness wasn't something I owed. It was something I could choose on my own terms. "I want that too," I said, folding my arms loosely. "But things have to change." They exchanged a wary glance. I continued, my tone gentle but steady. "If you want to be in Ava's life, you show up for her. Not just when it's convenient, not when you need a photo to post. You listen to her stories, celebrate her wins. You see her, even when she's quiet." My mother's eyes shimmered. "We can do that," she whispered. "And Ethan?" I turned to my brother, who had been sitting silently, fiddling with his wedding ring. He sighed. "I know. I was selfish. I didn't even realize what I did that day." I nodded slowly. "You didn't have to realize it. You just had to notice. But here's your chance now. Be someone worth your niece looking up to. Teach her that success isn't a spotlight, it's a torch you pass forward." He looked up at me, shame flickering into resolve. "I will." I believed him, maybe for the first time. Then I turned back to my parents. "And one more thing. I don't need you to be proud of me anymore. I just need you to respect me, to treat my life like it matters even when it's not headline-worthy. That's the only condition." Silence. Then my mother stepped forward, tears slipping down her cheeks as she pulled me into a trembling hug. "I'm sorry, honey. We missed so much." I hugged her back, but this time, it wasn't out of longing, it was strength meeting softness. When they left that night, I watched their car disappear down the street. I felt lighter, not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped trying to. I looked down at Ava, still coloring, her little fingers smudged with pastel chalk. She looked up at me and smiled. "Mommy, was today your special day?" I smiled back. "Yeah, baby. It finally was." The weeks after the event felt different. Quieter. Softer. Lighter. My parents started calling every Sunday, not out of guilt, but care. My mom would FaceTime to ask about Ava's drawings. My dad would send clumsy texts filled with too many emojis. It was awkward, imperfect, but real. Ethan surprised me one afternoon by showing up at the studio alone. He brought coffee and an apology, the kind that doesn't hide behind humor or charm. He looked around, taking in the sketches, the racks of fabric, the photos of Ava taped near my desk. "You built something incredible," he said. "And I know I didn't make it easy for you to believe you could." I smiled. "You didn't have to. I found people who did. But I appreciate you saying that." He nodded, then slipped a small box onto my desk, a silver frame with the words, "To the woman who made her own day." I laughed softly. "Grandma would have loved that." He grinned. "Yeah. I think she's somewhere bragging about you right now." That night, after putting Ava to bed, I stood by the window, watching the city lights shimmer. The bracelet on my wrist caught the glow, the same one Grandma had given me all those years ago. I ran my thumb over it, the metal warm from my skin. Her words echoed in my mind. "One day, you'll make your own kind of day." And I finally understood. It wasn't about outshining anyone, not Ethan, not my parents. It was about standing in my own light without needing anyone else to dim theirs. I thought about that girl at the baby shower, smiling through tears, pretending she didn't notice when the room turned away. She would never have believed that someday she'd build a world where she didn't need to be chosen to feel seen. I whispered, almost to her, "You made it." Then I turned off the lights, leaving the studio bathed in the soft glow of the sign outside, "Bloom Studio, gold against the dark." As I locked the door, I caught my reflection in the glass, strong, calm, whole. And for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. That day, they made it his day. But the woman I became after, she made every day her own. Bottom of form,